Hey there, Vince here with another quick bug report for Circuit Rewind. Today I want to talk about the Analogue Pocket. This is a neat little system that came out, a couple years ago. I think it's been a couple years now anyway. It's a modern handheld device that uses FPGA technology, and really, I'm not going to do a deep dive. That's not what this video is about what FPGA technology is. Just trust me, it's really freaking awesome and I love it. But it basically is designed to run virtually all of the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance line of games. Before you ask, yes, it can also run Doom. I have the Doom cartridge for Game Boy Advance plugged into it right now. Analogue has done a good job of supporting all the major features of the previous Game Boy line. Also, if Analogue ever, actually releases the Pocket adapter set that I'm still waiting on and they claim was supposed to ship this month, we'll eventually have TurboGrafx 16, Neo Geo Pocket Color, and Atari Lynx support on this thing, but I have no idea where the hell my adapters are. Anyway, for Game Boy, this is designed to support virtually all the major features of a traditional Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance system. And its shell design is very reminiscent of the old Game Boy Pocket, specifically. So it has this nice, sleek design. It doesn't have the hump in the back like the Game Boy Color did. I really, really love the design of this thing. They've done some upgrades, so in the back here, even though it is designed like a Game Boy Pocket, it has the shoulder buttons for the Game Boy Advance, so the L and R buttons. But on the front, it also has 4 face buttons instead of 2. That way, other systems can be played on this besides just, the Game Boy, like I said, with the different cartridge adapters, or using FPGA cores. Admittedly, mine is actually primarily used for CPS2 or Neo Geo games. I freaking love both of those, so. CPS2, like Street Fighter 2, would be a 6-button game, so that uses all 4 face buttons and the shoulder buttons. Or Neo Geo games are designed to be 4 face buttons, so hey look, 4 face buttons, it's perfect. But I'm not here to do a deep dive review of the Analogue Pocket. I'm actually here to give you a quick bug report. So one of the things that this system can do, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to undock it, so that way I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to, real quick, and yeah, I'm not going to screen share this because it doesn't really matter too much what's actually on the screen. What I wanted to do is get to the point where I can take the cartridge out, because this has similar functionality to, like what I said, a traditional Game Boy Advance would have. So when I go to load cartridge, as you can see, there's no cartridge in there right now. It brings up this little boot screen. And wouldn't you happen to know, I have a GameCube here, and one of the things you can do with a GameCube with a Game Boy player is you can use a Game Boy Advance as a controller for a GameCube with a Game Boy player. Really convoluted, right? So I'm going to plug this in, and we should now see this switch over. Yeah, there it goes. And with that, I should now be able to control the GameCube. I hope it. I can't actually see the screen, so I hope it's working. Oh wait, there we go. I can see it in the reflection. But then, the quick bug report. I then want to take this and I want to dock it. Do you see a little problem here? So in the infinite wisdom of Analogue, they decided to put the link cable port on the bottom of this unit, but that's also how it docks into the dock. The other thing is the way they designed the link cable port, you may notice here that this is a special link cable. Kind of. The link cable that I'm using this is the official Nintendo link cable, but I took the housing off of it, and then somebody created this 3D printed part online that replaces the housing that had the clips on it with this much smaller housing, because this is the actual size of the circuit board. So that way it can actually plug into this. Otherwise, those clips wouldn't allow it to plug into the Analogue Pocket here. I'll link the print file for this down below so you can go and print one out for yourself. Please note that I initially bought a third-party link cable, and that circuit board was a different shape size and was too large for this, so you have to use an official one. So I had to make a couple extra purchases. So for this convoluted conundrum, I came up with a clever contraption to be able to solve this issue. So I'm going to go back to the main screen here. So I'm just back at the boot screen. And this entire contraption is a cable. Go figure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in here into the dock, and now I'm going to take this cable and plug it into my Analogue Pocket. And nothing. I don't even have to see the screen to know that. I can actually tell from looking at this one. That's actually kind of intentional. One thing I wanted to point out with the way that USB cables are wired is that there's pins on the top and there's pins on the bottom. And the way that this docks in, there's only one way this can actually face. So right now I actually have the cable reversed from what it's expecting. So basically the front pins are connected to the back connector of this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unplug this cable and rotate it around. I just wanted to show that in case you do this yourself, that's the problem, that's the solution. And now we have it up on the screen. And with this, you can now see that using this cable, I am technically docked and you have it on the screen. And now I can plug in my GameCube. I'm going to set that down. You can now see the main screen there. I'm going to grab my Xbox controller that is plugged into the Analogue Pocket dock, which is plugged into the Analogue Pocket, which is plugged into a GameCube, which is working with a Game Boy player. Convoluted as hell. Let's roll. So as you can see, that is now booting into the Game Boy player remote control interface. And I am now using my Xbox One controller to control Pokemon on my GameCube. This isn't practical at all. This is expensive, impractical, this is terrible. I didn't do this to say, hey, you should go do this specific setup. I did this for a specific reason. With the GameCube, there's games like Four Swords, right? So that means you can have 4 Game Boys plugged in using these link cables into the GameCube, and the game actually splits between what's on the Game Boy screen and what's on the big screen for everybody to see. With one of these modified cables, you can already do that with an Analogue Pocket. Cool. So that means you can have 4 friends with modern Analogue Pockets and being able to play Four Swords on a GameCube. But what about streaming? What about streamers on Twitch, and specifically like speedrunners, like Games Done Quick and whatnot? They need a way to get like good interfaces to some of these things. And if the main game is running on a GameCube, I think an Analogue Pocket would still be acceptable for, you know, the secondary controller. So with this, since we have like a good clean HDMI output from this dock, as you can see, we have like a good way to capture the Game Boy screen. And the GameCube here being a DOL001, I'm using the digital port on this to get HDMI on this screen. So we have good clear screens on both, right? That gives us a very easy way to do capture on both of these that can be fed into a computer and then again streamed out for like Games Done Quick, Twitch, you know, whatever your streaming service is, captured for YouTube, you know, whatever. That can all now work beautifully. And it's not just limited to this. This is also, let's say if you were just a streamer by yourself and you had 2 Analogue Pockets and you wanted to stream them on TV, but you wanted to play Pokemon, for instance, and you wanted to trade Pokemon between the two, and you wanted to have at least one on the screen, maybe both of them on the screen, so your viewers can see what's going on. Because what I've seen certain streamers do is that when they want to initiate a trade with themselves from one cartridge to another, they'll just undock the system so the viewer loses the experience. They do the trade real quick, and then they redock it to bring the view back for, you know, the viewers of the channel. And it's just kind of a disconnected interface. But with this, it's janky, but while this is set up, I don't actually physically touch the system. As you saw, I'm using an external controller too. So I don't even need to touch this once it's all plugged in. I can just set this off to the side on a desk, and it just works. My main complaint here is actually for Analogue specifically. Like, okay, you designed the system, you put the link cable port on the bottom. Maybe that was an oversight and you weren't thinking about this type of a setup, or, you know, people wanting to stream and trade or at the same time, or you stream and multiplayer at the same time. Fine, whatever. You release the dock. As you can see, that port is still active. When they designed the dock, which I believe came out after the Pocket, they could have had a pass-through port for the link cable down here at the bottom, and then have it come out the side, the front, the back somewhere. And they could have been able to do that with the dock. As it is right now, I'm actually considering what it would take to actually chop holes in this dock and put a little printed circuit board inside of this just to do that pass-through myself, so that way I don't have to do this cable setup. So I might do that in the future, I don't know. At least for the time being, this works. So anyway, this rambling actually turned this into a slightly longer than just a quick bug report, but I hope you enjoyed, and keep following me for janky solutions, because I just got a shipping notice this morning that a very, very important package is officially in the mail as of today. It is for the Jankinator 2.0, and you are gonna freaking love it if you love stuff like this, or my previous Jankinator video with the RTX 3080 on a PCI slot, because I'm taking that idea to the next extreme level. Anyway, toodaloos.